here again at Strong Words with Johnny Johnson. Johnny J.Rock Johnson, founder, director, Raw 2 for 1, 25 years in the game and change. Welcome to another exclusive Strong Words interview I have with me, the one and only, and this is the perfect man to have for one of these exclusives, the one and only, the legend himself, Kenny Monday, Tulsa born. This man is in the building, ready to blow up the whole spot, man, try to expose the game like only he can. Thank you for joining me on today's show, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Been excited.
So we have one of the few guys that were in the game and actually made 3 straight Olympic teams. I think this is very underrated. You made 3 straight Olympic teams, 2 back-to-back Olympic finals. So since that time, and I don't know what you've done in terms of taking a look at it, but since that time, that has not been replicated. So if you look at all of the guys that we had in our 96 Olympic finals, none of those guys made it back to another final. If you look at 2000, we only had, none of those guys made it to another final. 2004, nobody made it back again. 2008, nobody made it back again. 2012, nobody made it back again. 2016, still to be determined, but nobody made it back again yet. So you are the last of a dying breed here to make it to 2 back-to-back Olympic finals and 3 Olympic games. So congratulations on all of that.
Appreciate it, man. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy. We've had, just some amazing wrestlers through the history of time. I've been in the game for 50 years, man. And it's, watching the guys that came before me, the Kemps, the Campbells, the Desicks, the list goes on. I was exposed to that 1972 team, man, when I was 10 years old. So the Gables, the Wayne Wells, the Chris Taylors, the Peterson brothers, all them cats, man, was when I was getting their autographs. And so I'm on those shoulders of greatness when I came up.
So one of the guys that I grew up, I got involved in the game as a freshman in high school.
Right.
Every magazine that I looked on, they didn't have the multitude of things that they do today to see stars. But at that time, the names that I was seeing was obviously your name, Nate Carr, Kevin Jackson, guys that I could see, identify with and things like that. Kenny Monday was world renowned by the Russians, namely as the.
It's funny how that name came about, and really was just this one Russian guy, and I forget I think his name is Megamadov, and he was a weight class below me, so he was at 68 kilo, right? And so we were in the tournament, and we started a dual meet, and came up and introduced himself, was talking, and so we just kind of got a little friendship, right? But we would always kind of give each other a hard time, like we was aging me, and I'm like, my boy's gonna tell you, he's gonna get you, man, he's gonna get you. We come to beat Russia, right? He's like, oh, you guys, USA, no problem.
Right.
So he's just kind of going back and forth, right? And so after the match, it's like you like I think it was at the banquet after the match, and he's like, you like Black Puma, you like Puma. I'm like, you're fast. I'm like, but you're slow, but you're methodical. Like, yes. So I'm like, you're like a big walrus,
Mm-hmm.
Big hippo, right? And so we just kind of gave each other a hard time, right? So then every time he see me, he was like, Puma, like Puma, right? So he just kind of, and this kind of just stuck, man. It just stuck, right? And so I went to Russia. I went wrestled 2 Tbilisi tournaments, right? Toughest tournament in the world. That thing, I'm sure you heard about it, man. That thing was, at that point, it was like the Riggins, the Russian nationals. Then it was the Soviet Union, right? And so all these cats were trying to make the Russian team, and we didn't have the republics we have now, right? And so, it was a serious tough tournament, because what we would do, John, we would go on the tour, and we'd probably wrestle 3 dual meets before the tournament. So we'd wrestle 3 dual meets and then hit the tournament. So we go 3 dual meets, then we hit the tournament. And if you make it to the final, that's eight matches. So that's so that's 14 matches, right?
Yeah.
We're around in there, yeah, 10 matches. I think the year I won it, I was 11-0 on that tour. So I won all the dual meets, won 3 dual meets and eight matches in the tournament. So I was 11-0.
Did you see any of the same faces?
Yeah. It's amazing because you go back in '87, I got 5th. And Dave won the tournament in '87.
Right.
Dave Schultz won the tournament, right? And so, yeah, I lost to a couple of those guys. And then next year, I beat those guys, like probably 3 of them. I wrestled world champion Mega Man off the Dave had beat in the finals the previous year. I wrestled him in the semis.
Right.
And beat him. He's a world champ, Mega Madoff. And then I wrestled Gajikanov. I wrestled Zagudov in the finals. So, yeah, I wrestled probably 3 or 4 of those guys that I had wrestled the previous year and beat them all the next year. Lost to them the year before and beat them all the next year.
Yeah, see, that's progress. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my progress from '87 to '88 was off the charts. And you go back and watch my matches in the World Team Trials against Dave. I mean, it's worth watching because it was a three match series. He beat me the first one. I beat him the second, which was the first time I've ever beat him.
Right.
And then he beat me the third. But they were all close matches.
Yeah.
All close matches. All just some great action, some great flurries. I mean, it was some good matches, right? And but then from '87 to '88, man, I jumped levels. I mean, it was at that point I kind of figured it out. And I think it was probably due to them 2 Russian tours.
Yeah.
And I figured out how to beat Russians. Figured that whole thing out. I got the code, right? I got that code. I unlocked that code.
That's it.
I didn't lose to a Russian from '88 to '92. And so after I came back, I said, okay, I know what this thing is. So now I know how to train. I had to add a workout, and so. But then you watch my matches from '87 to '88 was like night and day.
Amazing. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. Yep. It's impressive that you can look back and you can see. Right. Did you feel it as it was happening, or did it take you a while, or you recognize it?
Yeah. From '87 to '88, it was then, man. And I tell people all the time, man, you can make tremendous jumps if you know what you're doing, if you know how to get better. It's more than this, hard work, right? So I figured out I was getting better on a daily. I would come in and, man, I would hit some things that I wasn't hitting the day before, or just beating people up the next day worse than I was the previous day. Right. And never got, I never lost to Dave after the '87 match. I never lost him again. I went after that, after World Team Trials in '87, I beat him 10 straight matches after that.
Wow.
But yeah, it was like on a daily, man. I could come back from that room and man, that was I would just feel good because I know I was jumping levels, man. I was getting better on a daily basis. Right. Yeah, so yeah, I was really on a serious trajectory to the top.
It was well known that you were hurt in '96.
Right.
So
92 and '96.
So yeah, so the '92 was kind of like you heard a couple of whispers, but you weren't totally sure, because I know you guys in your camp were trying to keep it as quiet as possible. Right. So it wasn't like confirmed that he was hurt, but it was out there in these dark corners. You could hear some whispers. You knew something was happening.
Yep.
So it was that. Were you injured mainly through your training? Was it through competition? Like how and when were you getting to where?
Well, 92, man, and it was a tough year because I was wrestling, man. I was wrestling better than I ever had. I felt, I was coming off of, because I won '89, and then I didn't make the team in '90. I worked my butt off to get back in '91. I wasn't quite there yet in '91. I wasn't quite back to where I wanted to be in '91. Even though I lost in the finals to the Iranians by, to a point. But then I still wasn't at the level that I should have been, that I wanted to be. The '92, I got back to that level. I mean, I was really wrestling well. And it was really probably 6 days before the tournament started. And I dislocated my elbow. Right. Just the last freaking go of the day.
Wow.
I mean, wrestling a match with Trevor Lewis, Foxcatcher guy, and he tried to take me through on a front headlock, and he took my elbow, and it just hyperextended it, right? But I thought it was out, man. It was probably the most painful thing I've ever felt.
Right.
And so I spun out when it happened, spun back in, kind of popped it back in place. And so I couldn't get on the mat for the next, of course, the next 7 days. 6 days I couldn't get on the mat. So I just kind of rode the bike and kind of tried to keep it under wraps, and kept on a sleeve, had that, it was like a stem sleeve that they put on. Which worked magic, man. I did that twice a day, every day. And, but my arm was swollen from my fingertips all the way to my shoulder, man. It was swollen so bad. I didn't know how good I was going to compete, right? Because I went to the doctor and said, well, luckily your arm is in such good shape that you didn't blow anything out. It's just a serious hyperextension. And it's going to hurt, but it's not going to require surgery. It's just going to be painful, right? And then you have to recover, right? And so I'm like, all right, as long as I can wrestle, I was going to wrestle with one arm, right? So yeah, I just protected it and just wrestled smart. But again, I was probably 70% probably with that arm, and plus that's my underside too. That's my undercard. It's my one that I depend on, and so I really couldn't do that well. But yeah, it was tough. Yeah, it was tough. When I get to a leg, I couldn't quite pull them in like I wanted to, but I still had a good tournament. I mean, I didn't give up a point until the finals.
Yeah.
I didn't give up
10 seconds.
I didn't get exactly, and it was my fault. He wasn't going to take me down.
Right.
So I should have won the match. I got a little impatient and thought, let me do an action, like a half-ass shot at him, and maybe they put him down with 10 seconds left, like turn him. If not, I'm going overtime, right? He wasn't taking me down. Dude wasn't taking me down. He had never beat me before that match.
Right. Yeah, you had blown his doors off the year before.
Yeah. I pinned him, right? And I kind of caught him, but I pinned him, but with a kind of a body whip, right? It wasn't a neck wrench, but it was a body wrench. You catch the shoulder, catch his lat, throw him through on a duck, and this great bind to the mat. But he wasn't beating me. He was a guy that 9 out of 10 times to get the match. 9 matches after that, he ain't beat me, right? And so he got that one, and then just kind of how things worked out, right? But I was definitely probably 70% in that tournament.
Yeah, that's tough, but still, nevertheless, for you to make back-to-back Olympics, 3 Olympic team, again, like I say, very underrated in American history. What that was and how you were able to accomplish that. And one of the things I wanted to chat with you about is the 74 kilo weight class. Doing that, you didn't just do that. Like so far right now in America, if we look at all of our weights, and this is something I want to talk to you about a little bit as we get into this, but if we look at all of our weight classes right now, 57 kilos, 61, 65, 70, and heavyweight. So, I mean, what's that? 5 weight classes where we don't have a world champ.
Right.
That's 5 weight, because we're talking about America here, 330 million people, 5 weights where we don't have a world champ. Right. So, but as we look back now, if we flash all the way back to your era, the fact that you had so much talent at 74 kilos at that time reminds me of 74 kilos in Russia today, where they got 4 world champs, vying for 1 spot in Russia at 74. You guys were hot and heavy. You had Dave Schultz, and you guys were going back and forth, whatever the situation may be. And then you started to pull away a little bit, but he was a legend in his own right as well. So for you to make those teams during that time, did you wrestle Dave in two of the trials finals? I know you wrestled Pat Smith in 96, but who was
in the Olympic trials?
Yeah, the Olympic trial finals.
Yeah. I didn't wrestle Dave in 92. He went up. He kind of he gave up on it, so he ran out the weight class. So he went up to 80 kilos. But he should have been in my weight class.
I didn't know that. He did. In 92, he bumped up, huh?
Yeah, he did.
Wow. Who'd you wrestle in 92 trials?
I wrestled Greg Alinsky.
Yep, I remember Greg. Yep.
Beat Cole and
Yeah.
I never got to Cole. After 9, I never got to wrestle Cole again. I've been looking for that dude ever since.
Yeah.
That was kind of a bad year, but it was really a tough year and just bad deal that happened through 90. But yeah, I lost to Cole in the 90 World Team Trials after going through the whole system of 14 matches, and he was sitting at the top.
Right.
But I never got him again. And so he never made it to me again after that, 91, 92. He never got back to the top.
Yeah, that's right. I remember the Greg Alinsky.
Greg Alinsky. Yeah.
Greg Alinsky. Yeah. But I had forgotten that Schultz had actually bumped up. I forgot all about that. Yeah. That's pretty impressive, man. I mean, you making people move for
right. And I tell people all the time, of course, in '88, Nate went down. So, and pre '88, it was me, Dave, and Nate Carr. Right. So, Nate was my nemesis in college and that whole thing, and then after college, but then the last time I also Nate was in '87 World Team Trials, and I beat Nate 2 straight. I beat him 5-1 and 8-0. That's the last time me and Nate wrestled in the match, right? So then, of course, after that, he went down to 49. So he ran out the way good. So I ran him out the way too, but it was good because we got to train together after '87. I said, Nate, it was funny because we were all hanging out after the '87 World Team Trials, and I lost to Schultz in the finals, like I said. And so we were all hanging out, the brothers hanging out. And so me and Nate got to jarring each other. We always was jarring each other, always talking. We were fierce competitors, but of course, when we got together, we was always like jarring at each other, right? And just talking trash. And so I said, Nate, I tell you right now, dude, you need to go down. You need to go down to 49. You need to go down, man, because you're not making a team. I'm making this team. I'm beating Nate. I'm beating Dave. I'm beating everybody. Whoever stepped to the line, I'm beating them, right? So go down, man, and then we can train together because we both suck as kids. And he said, no, you go down. I'm like, no, that ain't happening.
Right.
I can't go down. And so about a week or two after that, he called me up and said, all right, Monday, I'm going to go down. And so he went down, and then we trained together. He came out to Stillwater. Came to Stillwater, and we were able to train together, man. So we had some incredible training days, man, where we were just going at each other, man. It was really good. And it paid off. He made team, I made team.
Yeah, 88.
We both medaled, right? So it was really, really a good year.
Good. Yeah. Now, see, his match, I don't know if it was the semifinals. I think it was the semifinals where he wound up wrestling the same opponent that you wrestled in '92.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man. So that some controversy in that bout.
He should have been in the finals.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been amazing. Both of you guys in the finals in '88.
Yep. Because it was funny because we were all in the same room because he came to Stillwater. So we had some great practices, man. So of course you had John Smith in the room, myself, Nate Carr, Charlie Hurd came out and trained with us. Who else was in that room a couple times? Melvin Douglas came out a little bit. And so, I mean, we had some amazing training times.
Was Charlie at Tennessee?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, the SEC, can you imagine if they had wrestling right now?
Right. And Charlie was a bad boy, man. He really should have made that team. He got, he would get with Barry Davis, man, and him and Barry would kind of go around and try to get out on him. And then Barry would just kind of do what Barry does. He kind of suck him up, right? And, but Charlie was a talented cat, man. He was fun to watch. And so he was in the room with us. And I tell you what, watching him and John Smith those practices, man, I just wish people could have, I wish we had video of the practices that we had in '88. It was crazy. Him and Charlie would go, and then Charlie and then Nate and John would go some, and it was a good, some good practices.
So, I mean, you brought up Nate going down, you brought up going up.
Yep.
This is something I definitely wanted to talk to you about, was as you look at your career from your time up through now. So we had Fadzayev moving up to you. You got Sadulayev moved up to Russell Snyder. Obviously, he was retired, so a little bit of an asterisk next to it, but you had Bela Glazov moving up to Russell John. The three examples I just gave you were 0 and 3. But when you see these legends, I mean, Fadzayev, arguably the best of the decade in Russia, him and Bela Glazov.
Glazov, yep.
I mean, they both, in their minds, and in many people's minds, would have been 3-timers.
Right.
So if it wasn't for the boycott. So, right. And that's just, I mean, it's pretty amazing. So, but when you see these legends make these jumps in weight, I look at it and I'm like, do these guys want to get challenged? Because I look at Sadulayev, like nobody was able to score on him in 4 years.
Right.
Like, to me, it's like he moved to 97 for the challenge. I see Arsen moving up to you for the challenge because it's not really their weight, right? So when you
I think it's a little bit of the weight. I think especially with the same day weigh-in, I think that kind of
right.
I think that kind of played a part. I think that was instrumental in those guys moving up. Sergeant Left, I just think he felt like, I can win wherever, right? So why sacrifice that weight? Why cut that weight? Dudes like to eat. And then, so again, we had night before weigh-ins. And I think Fadzaev, when he came up, I think it was a little bit of that too. I think he just felt like he was good enough. He hadn't lost. He had never lost international. He had never lost before he came up. Right. And he beat Varayev in the trials.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was funny.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was like, and to be honest, I didn't even know he was in the weight class until an hour before weigh-ins. I didn't even know he was there.
Right.
Yep. I didn't even know. Leroy Smith came up, which he was one of the coaches, came up and said, hey, Fadzaev is up at 74 kilos. I was like, what? Fadzaev? Yeah, so I was like, whoa, really? So I was kind of taken aback that they would do that, right? Because Varayev was tough, man. Varayev was he was a monster.
Now he had won it in '87, correct?
Yeah. Just going through. I'm studying the weight class. I'm like, this dude is going through people, man. I got my hands full, right? So he kept me up at night. I was getting up early to run. I was doing stuff to make sure I was ready for this cat. But I had wrestled him. We had wrestled 3 times before that Olympic Games, right? And he'd beat me twice. I beat him once. He had beat me twice.
Right.
And he was a tough dude, man. He was hard to score on, hard to finish on. And so I was surprised they would put him up, right? Because he was going to be in the finals.
Right.
I was going to, if we were on the same side, unless we was on the same side. But I was surprised if Fadzaev came up. And then years later, I caught a video of their match. Yeah. It just popped up. I was going through YouTube, going through matches, and boom,
Russian
it
national.
popped up. Yep, it popped up, and he beat him. It was a close match.
Yeah,
it was a close match, but he ended up beating him. So that's why, they I guess he felt like that he could, that he can come up and
put this in context. Like I said, that he's arguably the best of that decade in Russia, which was the preeminent.
Right.
And for him to move up, and like you said, he hadn't lost. Now I know he might have lost at like a World Cup or something like that.
He hadn't lost international. No, he had not lost.
Never lost in international competition.
Never had.
So for him to move up and challenge you, and I want to put this in context for everybody, he was in over his head. the way that you handled that match, you made a legend. He literally was in over his head. Right.
I mean, they didn't know that. You go back and watch the videotape, you can see Regan. You can see him in the corner, right? And them guys knew me after. I mean, of course, I had wrestled, 2 publicity tournaments. He'd seen me there. I've wrestled in dual meets, and they knew who I was, but they still didn't think I was good enough to, that I was good enough to beat him, right? So, but you can see his reactions on a couple of different scoring sequences, and he would just shake as he put his head down. They knew as the match progressed that they had made a mistake. They knew they was over there. They knew that I think even after the first sequence when I shot and he got the front headlock and choked me out, and went around. But then that first little arm trap that he did, he was doing that on everybody, right?
Right.
That little arm trap.
Satev wound up following up.
Yeah. Right. And so now I blocked it. I think he felt my body, and he couldn't turn me. And then I think that he's okay. Let's do something different, right? And then I changed too. I adapted right after that shot. I'm like, okay, I gotta let this dude feel my body a little bit. I gotta let him feel how strong I am, right? And so then I say, like, I gotta counter wrestle him a little bit. I'm gonna put some underhooks on him and make him back up, and make him feel me a little bit before I get back to shooting on him.
Yeah, it was an incredible match, man.
Yeah.
The lead up, I'm sure, had to be crazy. Going just because you were looking for one person,
right?
They kind of backdoored you to throw somebody else in at you. 60 minutes.
They were prepared, right? Yeah, they prepared because they knew all along that they were coming up, right? So he was prepared, and I wasn't prepared for him. But I've watched Fadzaev enough to kind of know what he was doing, right? And I'm the kind of guy, though, during the course, I can change. It's hard to hit me with with the same move twice.
Right.
I don't care who you are. It's hard to hit me with the same thing twice in the course of a practice, in the course of a match. You know, I see it, right? So I knew where his attacks were coming from, right? And but yeah, they were more prepared for me than I was for them, for sure.
So your overall, so that I'm clear, so your overall perspective on jumping weights as it pertains to a Sajalaya to 96.
Yeah.
Or
I think it's challenging. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's challenging, for guys to go up. And Cox, he was kind of in that same field. I think he wanted to kind of go up and challenge, which I thought he was best to go down, but he wanted to go up and challenge Snyder and challenge Sajalayev, and I think that was part of that.
Right.
Guys are trying to solidify themselves,
right,
and talk talk about their legacies, and because that's all we were about. That whole group that I was a part of, the Baumgartners, the Schultzes, the Jacksons, the Smiths. I mean, we were all about legendary status.
Yes.
How many times can we win? Just how many times we could win, right? And so that's kind of the mindset that we had coming through. Because again, we came before the Gables, the Petersons, Rick Sanders. I mean, these guys are the legendary people that that was winning multiple titles. But that's kind of what we wanted. That was my mindset, right? At the end of the day, I want my name to be in that conversation as one of the best,
Yeah, well, I mean, we're there now. So
yeah.
Looking back now, we didn't see that.
Right.
So that's a great segue into what another thing that I wanted to touch on is that's almost like a golden age, right? So you look at that 72 team.
Yep.
Then we look at you guys, that 88 and 92.
92. Yep.
And 96 wasn't bad.
96 was fun. Yeah.
So when we look back, what do we need to do as a country? And maybe you don't see it as this, but what do we need to do to get to where Russia is in terms of success, productivity? I think,
I mean, I think we're doing it. I think we're doing it. You look at that 74 kilo weight class. I mean, with Dake and Burroughs, you got two world champs. How many world champs we got on that team? We got
pretty good. So we got 97, you got 86, you got 74. So that's pretty solid. Yep.
And you got Taylor. So you got
86.
Yeah. So it's a great team, man. It's a great team. We got some monsters on that team. With Adam Gable in there, I mean, it's a monster on that squad, right? And so I think we're doing it. I think we're starting to expand our reach as far as the kids coming up. We got the cadets and the U23s, and so these guys got much more opportunities to compete internationally than we have probably ever had.
Right.
So I think, then also I think the development of the club teams around the world, and especially in the United States, has put us on a different path, right? And I knew that coming in when I ran a club team, and I started in 2000 in Texas and ran that team, and then people were starting to run club teams as businesses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And making a living. And so now these kids have got a better foundation. They got better coaches. And so these guys aren't needing to be retaught when they get to college.
Right.
Some of the things that we saw early on is you had these kids coming up and they had bad coaches. They didn't have good foundation. So you have to strip them and then reteach them.
Yep.
Right. So that piece is getting better. So you're getting a better young kid coming up, right? These kids are coming in the college, they're ready to win. These kids they're winning early. Why? Because they've got better coaches, got better systems that they've come out of, from the Young Duns to, when Bormet was in Illinois, the Izzies, the Perlers in Missouri. And so it's just a different system that we have, and it's proven to be beneficial. And I think that's going to continue. I think people are going to continue. I think parents and wrestling has changed, because I remember when I was coming up, it was kind of not taboo, but it was just not heard of people doing private lessons or exactly. Or I remember when I first started, and this has always kind of been my thought process, my dream. I remember my college coach, Tommy Chesbrough, said, "Kenny, what do you want to do when you get out of college?" I said, "Well, my thing is I would really like to open a wrestling school." Right? Because we came up in the Bruce Lee era, you know, and it was a karate school on every corner. Mm-hmm. And these dudes they were running businesses for years and making a living. And so I'm like, man, why can't we do that in wrestling? Because I knew that wrestling was a better martial art than karate. Right. All these cats on the playground was kicking at me, you know. I'm catching them, boom, throwing them down, and like they couldn't get up. Right. like, let me up, I'm gonna whoop you. I'm like, well, no, I'm not letting you up, right? And so I knew that wrestling was a better martial art. Right. So I'm just like, man, why can't we replicate that system, right? And build these kids from the ground up, from the time they start to the time they go to college. You know, if they want to train, you know, for international success, they could do this in this system. And so I knew that all along that would be something that we could do and just change the game, man. And it really has. I think it's revolutionized the sport.
So when you talk about the foundation being laid for these club coaches and stuff like that, it's like the stuff that I'm giving to my 10-year-olds, I didn't get to, I was like 22 years old.
Exactly.
I'm exposing my 10, 11, 12-year-old wrestlers to stuff that just techniques and concepts and ideas, and approaches to the game, training methods and opportunities. Like you said, when you were young, 10, 11, 12 years old, you're watching the 72 Olympic team and it stuck with you.
It did. And I had to go see it because we didn't have the videos. We didn't have you know, that opportunity to watch like we do now, right? You can get on YouTube and see just about everything. We had to actually be there. And just so happened, I was from Oklahoma living in Tulsa. You know, Stillwater was where the US Open was. We called it the Federation, was, you know, an hour from me. And so we were jumping down there. My parents was taking me down there to see these cats wrestle. It blew my mind.
Wow.
Blew my mind, right? Yeah. So I remember the first time meeting Jordan, though, and coming up and talking to him and Manning. Manning's like, "Kenny, man, this kid is he's gonna be great, man. He's gonna be something else, right? He's watching your videos." And I've been telling him, because I wrestled Manning, you know, back in the day a couple of times and smashed him, right? So he knew Kenny Monday, right? And so he's like, man, he reminds me so much of you, and and you know, he's got good coaching, So I remember the first time meeting him, and we talked about him watching our videos and stuff.
Yeah. Now these guys are, like you said, the club game allowed these guys to be so well prepped.
That model is working, and then I think our junior teams are working where they're able to come into, and our national teams is very productive. I think it's very you know, it's a very good model and foundation for our young kids to be in the same room with some of our recipients, some of our, you know, guys that are on the circuit, you know, where they can teach them and talk to them and be around them. And they kind of set that vision again, you know, and they're in the room. We didn't have that opportunity.
Right.
We didn't have it. Right. And so now we have it with the national teams and training camps. I think it's going in that right direction. Right. And so it's still tough, man. It's tough. You know, it's tough to crack that code. But I think I think this team, it will benefit the next generation coming up. Mm-hmm. Their success. I mean, the success is, you know, success, you know, it builds success, right? I've got people that come up to me today that say, man, I started wrestling because I watched you in the Olympic Games, right? Grown people, right? They come up and they bring me their kids and say, man, I started wrestling because of you, right? And so success breeds success, you know that.
So right now, and I want to be able to attach this to the Japanese women's team as well, because cadets, juniors, seniors. So Japan women are women cadets, juniors, and seniors year in and year out. Right. And Russia, for the most part, is winning cadets, men's freestyle and Greco, cadets, juniors, and seniors. So it is starting at the cadet level and building up. But what I've noticed with the Russians is they don't have a lot of extra focus prior to this cadet level. So this level before here, it's learning ground. So I just watched Sharayev, he beat an Olympic champ and a world champ all within the last year. Sharayev from Russia that was at 65. He beat Bayev, right? He beat Toslan Ramonov, which is not an easy victory.
No, that's tough.
So, but this dude is a baby. But when you go back and watch his videos at 13 years old, he was whack. I mean, he was getting picked up, monkey dunked all over the gym, thrown into the concession stand, knocking down people's popcorn and drinks. Like, so, but it seems like before you get to this cadet and junior level, there's emphasis, but there's not an ultra emphasis. It's not an uber emphasis. It's not that much of the emphasis that we put on it here, which is, you know, these 10-year-old kids, they wrestling 200 matches a year.
Yeah. A lot. Too much. Too much, probably, you know? Yeah. And I think that's where they really kind of start to develop those young kids, man. And of course you got to have talent. But I think it's coaching. I think it's, you know, the skill that these coaches have that they bring to these kids, you know. I think that's how they make the jump on us. And I think, I just think they don't have what we have. I mean, we're dealing with folk style, and I see it, and it hurts my boy. It hurts, not say hurt, but it just, you know, it's a different game.
Yeah.
It's a different game. I mean, let's just be honest, man. Freestyle and folk style is a different game. And so they don't have to contend with that. They don't have to contend with that back and forth. And of course, we get that, you know, we'll get that debate from here until the end of time about, you know, folk style and is it good for freestyle? Is what keeps us down or what? But yeah, it took me 3 years, man. It took me 3 years to get all that folk style, and I still had some out of my system to just drink solely freestyle, right? And positions and concepts and, you know, training methods. I mean, so it's a different game. It really is when you really want to look at it. So they don't have that to contend with. They don't have that folk style, you know, especially now that all these kids are scrambling and rolling across their back and all this different crap, man. And it's just, and it works, and it gets kids out of trouble. And you got to finish stronger. And so it's got some advantages and disadvantages to it. But I think that's one of the biggest things, that they still continue to have the jump on us and have the edge on us because they don't have to contend with the back and forth, right? And even the guys that are training, like I got Jordan Oliver, he still is wrestling with college kids, right? There's days where he's training with O'Connor, right? And so O'Connor's not thinking about freestyle, right? He's not thinking about those concepts. You know what I mean? And they still, even though you're on the circuit, you still are training with folk style.
Wow.
How do you miss it? You don't, right? And so I was keeping him away from it as much as I could, right? Just because I wanted his focus to be solely on freestyle. But it's just tough. You know, it's just not our system. And our system is geared toward folk style, and, you know, kids are wrestling freestyle 2 months after the year, right? So we wrestle folk style all the other time. Like Quincy. I mean, Quincy just come back from U23s, and he's, you know, but it helped him this year because he was able to be here and train with Jordan most of the time. Didn't have a lot of folk style stuff with him, but he still had to kind of go back and forth. When I see him in situations that he's getting beat in freestyle situations. Right. Okay. He wouldn't get beat in a folk style situation. Right. And so that's something that we still got to contend with, for sure. Right.
You see, I mean, this dominance of these Japanese ladies for decades.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on over there? What are they eating? What are they drinking? What's going on over there?
Oh, dog. I think they just got the jump. They got the jump on the world and got ahead of everybody. Said, look, we got to put the emphasis on these women and train them up, you know, and it just didn't catch on. We were late to the game. We were late to the game. It's just like, to me, it's almost like the WNBA. You know, you give them the opportunity. They're going to get, you look at these girls now, they balling.
Yes, they are.
They went balling 10 years, 12 years ago, right? Like, I can't even hardly watch it, right? Because the skill set wasn't there. You watch them now, and the skill set is there. They balling. Yes. I can, you know, I'm watching and enjoying it now, like, and really appreciate the skill level. You couldn't do that back then. But it's the same thing with us now. You look at this, our team, this Olympic team, we got some monsters.
Yeah, they solid.
These women can go. Again, success breeds success. So all these little young girls coming up now, they watching these girls win, and they're like, oh,
Yeah,
I can beat that, right? I can be out of line, right? I can beat Jakara. I can, and we got a good mix. You got Jakara, you got Missa, you got, so you got a good mix.
Ellen's back.
Ellen is back. Sarah's a monster, right? She's getting better and better and better.
Adeline, remember Adeline didn't win in 16, so that's in her mind. So she wants something one.
Right. And so I said we're getting there, right? And of course, the more opportunities, we had just a good team last year. I think this team is going to do some great things, and that's just the interest now is picking up. More opportunities for women across the country is picking up, and so I think we're going to catch them. But we were just late to the game. We're just late to the game. Late to the game, right? I think Snyder's. Terry's doing a great job, and so I think. I think we'll catch them, man. I think we will. We're gaining. We're gaining ground.
One of the other things that I noticed watching the Japanese girls is that you say they got an early start. Yeah. That's true.
No, I think they got to jump on us, man, and they had coaches in there and had training camps. They were doing training camps early, so I just think they just got ahead of the game, man, and it paid dividends. Dividends, for sure.
Did you hear anything about the judo background for the girls? Because maybe they started at 10, 11, 12 years old doing judo and then built that into wrestling?
I think they've always kind of started, even the guys start with the judo fundamentals. But I didn't hear much about that. I think they maybe did some cross training. Yeah. Got some of those girls over, said you got more opportunity wrestling than you do in judo, right?
Right.
Which I don't know. I think the judo game kind of get not as popular as a wrestling game. So I think wrestling kind of overtook it.
Absolutely.
As far as popularity and exposure. And so I think they just grabbed them and said, look, you can come wrestle.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you brought up that dude, Jay. How many years now has it been?
Well, 2 years. 2 years. He came to us. Came to me 2 years ago. Lost to Yanni, and in the U.S. Open. And after that, he kind of realized, okay, I need to make a move. I can't stay in this house with my main competitor.
That's right.
And so so he called me up and he made a decision to come to Chapel. We've had 2 great years, and I've been knowing Jordan since he was a sophomore in college. When I first went to Oklahoma State as RTC coach in 2010, and when he was just a kid, man, and kind of watched him grow, and he's a man now, and he's starting to think about his future. He's thinking about having a family and getting married later on, and so he's he's thinking something more about his future and kind of trying to solidify some things, and he's definitely going to wrestle through 24, he said. And so I think it kind of came down to that part. We couldn't match him in that money part. With Cox, joining the New Jersey and that whole New Jersey collaboration, New York and New Jersey, we got some big money behind them programs, man. And so I think at the end of the day, these guys want to solidify their futures, and they want to make more money. And I think that's kind of what it kind of came down to, man. But I wish him the best, man. We had 2 great years, man. I still think I'm his best coach, and but I wish him the best, man. And like I said, we there's nothing negative between us, but it was it just a situation that I think it was just kind of a better financial situation for him.
Yeah, and he has a very fortunate situation, just like JB with this world in October. So now if he jumped to 70,
right,
and wrestle 70 there, I mean that he can make a run.
Yeah. He'll make a run. Very proud of just his discipline that he's had in the last 2 years. Getting down the weight and managing it and being able to compete. So I think he's got the formula. He knows what he has to do. I think he's got the discipline. Right. But of course, 2024, he's going to be back down to 65 kilos.
Right. You're in your 2 year span with him, his best performance, U.S. Open, maybe?
Yeah.
impressive.
I think so. I think I think so. He was on fire. He was hitting on all. But I tell you, man, he was good this year. But going into the trials before pandemic hit, we were on a different level. After coming out that open, I went back home and said, okay, look, this is where we're jumping levels. It was kind of the same thing I went through, man. We were jumping levels, and I was seeing him getting better on a daily, right? We had to have my system in place, and he's a smart kid, right. Smart guy, and he was dialed in, and then they shut us down, right? I thought we were going to see a better performance than we saw in the U.S. Open for the trials, and they shut us down, and we had to restart that whole deal. And so that was tough. I didn't go through it. Of course, I didn't go through anything like that. But to go through that and be on the brink of making an Olympic team and going to the Olympics, that thing getting shut down, and then have to go all the way through that again without a payoff. Right. So you know how it is, man. You go through a sacrifice, you go through the work, you do the work, and you make the sacrifice, and you don't get a payoff.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's tough, man. Very difficult to go through physically and mentally. So as a coach, it was tough because I hadn't gone through that. Most things in wrestling I've gone through, I've experienced.
Right.
I had never experienced anything like that. So to kind of get him through that mentally was a challenge. It was a challenge, but we did it. Got there, and the trials. I think he had a good performance, but not a great performance. It was a good performance. Good enough, and then of course we didn't have a good performance in the last chance. He was winning matches, but it wasn't each match. It was a struggle. Right. It was a struggle. He didn't have his best performance, right, and so we end up a point short from making the Olympic Games. But I think he's going to be a contender. That's going forward. Sure.
Guys like you, why do we lack two different things when it comes to African-American coaches? Why are we in wrestling? Why are we lacking opportunity? Which I'm comfortable with my opportunity, but you can see other opportunities are opening up across the country and not getting these opportunities. And then also the African-American coaches who are coaching, why aren't they getting the same publicity as you ran off three earlier names? It's like, why aren't the African-American coaches, like me, from my own perspective, like I know Flo hasn't called me once. I've been in the game 26 years. I coached the hottest name in the game for a decade. Right. Jordan was the hottest name in the game for a whole decade. They didn't call me once. Right. Why is it that we see the exposure for X, Y, and Z coach, but when it comes to Roy Pittman is out in Portland. They've been in the game 50 years. Right. You know what I mean? Coaching. He'd have had less gutches in his room. All guys, Oh yeah. Chael been in his room. I got my boy Washington out in Detroit. The stuff he's doing in Detroit, and he's taking these kids directly off the street and getting them Division I scholarships. Right. Like, so when I see these names that are getting thrown out, I'm like, I don't understand why. Do you recognize it? Do you see it? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it's the same battle. It's the same battle that we've always had. Is just getting that recognition, that due recognition that we have. It's part of a systemic, racism that people just don't see us like they see our white brothers, and sisters. But I think that's part of it, man. I think we've always had to do more. From the time that I've been a kid, it's always been that way. We've always had to do more to get the same type of recognition that our counterparts are getting. Right. And it's just, it is what it is, right? I don't think we can, shy away from it. That's just what it is, right? I grew up in Tulsa, so the story of the Black Wall Street, right? And people still don't know the story, People are like, what, when did that happen? What happened? I mean, they still don't know the story, right? That's 100 years. Some people just now hearing that story. And so I think it's just, it's systems in place, it's systems that where we're not getting the opportunities, but I think it's changing. I think it's got to change with us as well. We got to continue to push the narrative. We got to continue to be great. And it's good to see, like Pendleton getting head job at Oregon State. I think that was a really good deal. I think our young guys coming up is gonna. I think Obi will get some opportunities going forward. He's a great, outstanding young coach, and so some of it is of course Kevin. Kevin's a great coach, had opportunities, but
Kelly is out there.
Who?
Jamel Kelly is out there.
Jamel Kelly. Yep, Jamel Kelly's been in the game for a while. So we'll see. I don't know. I think some of them. I don't know how many guys are really trying to be head coaches in that. So we'll see how it goes going forward, right? But we got to continue to push the narrative, man. We got to continue to push and strive to be great, get out there, right?
Yeah, a somber mood right now, and we are at that 100-year mark.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street, and
yep.
You are a product of Tulsa. I mean, an interesting question I have for you is, man, did they teach that in your school systems? Was it?
No.
So it was avoided entirely, even through your school systems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I grew up on Greenwood. So we knew the stories from our ancestors, from our parents, and from our parents' parents, great grandparents. My wife, Sabrina Goodwin, she has her great grandfather started the only black newspaper in Tulsa, the first black newspaper in Tulsa, Oklahoma Eagle, and they still run that paper today. But her family was the one that started that paper, and so we have direct descendants from Greenwood, right? So they would tell us the story. They would always tell us the stories, and we would always hear about it. And I remember even when they rebuilt, Greenwood. I remember the movie theaters being on Greenwood, and in my church, it was all over the news. Vernon AME is the church I grew up in.
Right, exactly.
And it's right. Yep, and that's right on Greenwood. That's the church I grew up in. I was baptized in. I still, support. And but I grew up in that church, and so yeah, that was a part of my life growing up. And so we heard the stories, man, and knew of the people that came before us, the giants, and the people that fought for us and died for us, and so that's part of my legacy. That's part of, and I tell people today, part of my fight, and my determination, and my grit come from Greenwood.
Right.
The Gap Band.
Right.
Come from Greenwood.
Right.
Charlie Boy and the Gap Band. Them dudes live right behind my grandmother. They lived right on the next street, and so they would come over and play with my uncles and all this. I've been knowing Charlie and them dudes forever, and so yeah, we come from that, man. We come from that legacy, and so that will never leave us, right? So I'm just glad that now that people are starting to recognize and see the atrocities that took place.
Yeah.
Right. And how, and it would have probably been, Tulsa would have probably been more like an Atlanta,
right.
How prosperous Atlanta is.
Yeah.
And, it'll probably be along those, probably better, to be honest.
Yeah, as far as the businesses and the foundation, the financial foundation, the infrastructure was already there.
Exactly, infrastructure, and right, and what would have been built and cultivated out of the wealth that would have been, derived from that. And so
generational wealth, like
generational.
I think you make a good point. That's a really good comparison. But then, I mean, I can see your wheels were turning in your head as you said that. It might even have been above Atlanta. And as you sit back and think about it, I think you're right.
I think so.
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, Atlanta is a great mecca. I mean, and we got a lot there, but like,
that whole north side, Tulsa would have been a totally different place.
Right.
It's still like open land. It's just like where my dad lives. I mean, my dad still lives in the same house I grew up in, right? Now North Tulsa, but like on that north side, man, it's just acres, acres of open land, right? And it'd have been a totally different city,
right? Totally
different area. So
they're talking about reparations right now. I mean,
right.
I'd love for that to get built up. I mean, like you said, it's sitting there. It's waiting.
Oh, it's sitting there. Acres, man, acres. And so now, it's crazy because, now they're starting to try to come back downtown and rebuild. I mean, downtown is 5 minutes from my dad's house.
Right.
About 10 minutes from, not even 5 miles from my dad's house, downtown Tulsa. My wife grew up on Denver, and she still owns that house where her mom and dad grew up. That's 5 minutes from downtown Tulsa. That's right there. And they're trying to buy her house. So they're trying to buy that whole, that whole area. They're trying to buy it out, right? And so they're holding on to that property. But that's the house that my wife grew up in. My wife and I went to the same high school together, and Booker T. Washington, right? And so, Starks, John Starks. I grew up with John Starks, ball player, right?
Yep.
Wayman Tisdale, right? So we've got some great athletes that came out of Tulsa, man. But
Watch Wayman at OU. Playing ball. I used to see him on the ESPN when I was in high school, middle school, and stuff like that.
High school together. Yeah. Wow. So it's a lot of legacy, man, coming out of Tulsa. I'm just glad that people are starting to see it, right? And I hope they get their. I know they'll never get the justice that they deserve, but hopefully they will get something that's going to kind of move that story along, man. Because Tulsa is really a great place to live, and but it's got a lot to do to get back to where it could have been.
Right, but you were right there.
Yeah,
you were in the core of all of that. So you probably felt the most heat, and like I said, asking you the question that I did, which is, did they have it in the school systems?
No, they didn't, man. We had to get it from our parents, and the legacy of our families told us the stories. Sitting around the barbecue pits, right? I'll tell you a quick story. We went to that. You talk about Bishop Lynch, right? So we took those kids to Russia 3 different times, right? One year we went to Dagestan. Lance Palmer was on that tour. Taylor wouldn't make that. He didn't make that tour, but then most of our Bishop Lynch kids. And then, so we went into Dagestan. This was probably 2005, 2006, right? And so we went into Dagestan, and while we were there, the head coach, the tall black guy, tall bald head guy, Sajalayev's coach, came and said, Monday, can you teach the fireman's carry? That your fireman's carry. Can you show fireman's carry? So man, I was hour and a half in showing this technique, showing that fireman's carry, all angles, 2-on-1s, outside, inside, from the collar tie, just different variations of it, right? And years later, I see Sajalayev hitting the move. I see Sajalayev hitting it, right? So I go back, and next time I saw the car, I'm like, hey, he goes, yeah, he was in the camp. He was there. He was there when you were showing that fireman's carry that day, right? And so I come back, and now he's hitting the move and tearing people up with it, right?
Yeah.
And so
they love the fireman's.
He did. I mean, I'm like, this dude hit my fireman's carry. Yeah, so he was in the camp that day. But I just think it's different. Like, and my lad drop is different, right? It's the way I set it up, right? I'm still hitting people with that.
Right.
I'm still hitting kids with that. I had JB with it. He didn't see it coming. He was in the room one day, and he can tell you, he might not agree to it. He might not admit to it, but people saw it. People saw it. People were watching us, right? We're sparring around, and bam, hit him, but he didn't see it coming. Next thing you know, he's bridging, right? And so it's sneaky. This next I would say next segment of my life, and this next move that I'm on, this next journey I'm on, I'm gonna create some monsters. There's gonna be some opportunities to really hit these kids, man, and have an opportunity to really change the game a little bit. Some good things coming. Some good things coming.
Listen, man, I nothing but total and utter respect for you. I appreciate you taking some time out.
I appreciate you too, man. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan and watch you and see your stuff. But you did one of the things you kind of hit me with. I think you're going to ask my top 5 all time.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I got, and I struggle with it. I got Smith. I got JB. I've got myself. I've got KJ. How many is that? How many is that?
That's 4.
4. And this next one is either I struggle with, but I got to go with my boy Kent.
Okay. Yeah.
Go with my boy Lee Kent.
Okay. 3-timer, and if it wasn't for a boycott, maybe would have been a 4-timer.
That's my boy, man. That's my boy. That's my dude. That's my dude.
Okay.
He inspired me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a hell of a top 5. That's a hell of, but as I was saying, look at all of the 74s that are there.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems to be one of those weight classes for us in this country.
Yep.
I mean,
and the ones I left out. I mean, I left out Schultz.
Yep.
I left out Wayne Wells.
Yep. Dan.
Yeah.
My homie Wade. My homie Wade in there somewhere.
Yep. Yep. You know, I think Dake's gonna be. I think before it's all over, I think he's gonna be in there somewhere. It's kind of hard to leave this cat out, man. He's something.
Yeah.
He's something. He's something. If he wins this year, then I think we gotta start kind of putting him. He's gonna be in that.
He's gonna be hitting that.
So that be in the discussion.
That would make him a 2-timer and then plus a gold.
With a gold.
Olympic gold.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's not getting, and he's getting better.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting better.
Yeah, I like that top. I'm gonna post that top 5. I like that top.
All right.
5.
All right.
That'll be a discussion point.
For sure.
Listen, man, nothing but respect. Appreciate you.
Sure, man.
Stay in the game. I'll keep my eye on you and let your wife know I say hello. And
I will.
Congrats on your 2 boys, man. Ain't nothing like that.
Yep. I know it, man. It's been a blessing just to have them guys, you know, on that journey and creating their own legacy. And I think Quincy's got 2 more years at Princeton, and I think you're gonna see some great things out of him, man. He's coming.
If you ever come up this way,
I want to.
I'm here. I'm about 45 minutes from Princeton.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So if
we got to do that, man. We got to do that.
If you ever come up, man, we'll do some lunch.
We got to do that. Yeah. My boys are really good. They're good. They're good with kids.